Hi, this is Nancy Klasky, and I'm with the CSU Extension Office in Broomfield, Colorado. Today I want to talk to you about plant propagation. University studies have shown that having houseplants benefits people in many ways. So why not propagate the ones you have for your own health and well-being, and to share with friends and family? There are all kinds of houseplants to choose from. It's important to buy the ones that are right for you. Houseplants all have different needs: light, environment, and the time you have to take care of them. These are all important things to consider. There are different ways to propagate plants. Layerings, cuttings, and division methods can be used for many houseplants, but you have to know what type of propagation works best for your plants. We will go over some common houseplants and what methods work best for them. The first type of propagation I want to share with you is herbaceous cuttings. Herbaceous cuttings are probably one of the easiest types of propagation and can be used on these familiar plants. The first step with any plant propagation is to make sure you clean and sterilize your tools and any pot or containers you are using. Have everything you will need ready before you start your cuttings. I am taking a cutting from a pothos vine. Pothos are easy and beautiful houseplants that need bright, indirect light and can tolerate low light. They also tolerate dry soil and are just an easy plant to grow. This plant is a fast grower too, so taking cuttings is not an issue. I start by finding the stem I would like to trim off and look for the nodes. The nodes are where the leaves grow from the stem. Cut just below the node, then take the cutting and trim off the first few leaves. Make sure to cut close to the stem. I like to put my cuttings in water so that I can see the roots growing. Use a glass jar and fill up the jar to about an inch above where you trimmed that first leaf off, so the node is immersed. You don't want to have the other trimmed parts in water because they will sprout roots too. Then just make sure to check water levels every few days and fill when needed. You can also plant the cutting directly into potting medium. Again, make sure your pot is clean and has fresh potting medium in it. Poke a hole in the center and then insert cut end of plant into hole. Press soil around lightly and then water. Always start cuttings or small plants in a small pot, not more than 6 inches in diameter. The reason for this is that the bigger the pot, the more water it will hold, and this increases the chance of overwatering and drowning your plant. You can transplant into bigger pots as your plant grows. Other things to consider with this method are whether to use root stimulator. There are a few types of stimulators such as gel, powder, and liquid. I have a concentrated liquid form. You do not saturate your soil with this mixture. You only use a specified amount, then use plain water. It's important to always read the label on any product to ensure you are using it correctly. There are choices for potting mediums as well. You can buy a seed starter or potting soil that is ready to go, but a most cost-effective way is to mix your own using peat moss with vermiculite and or perlite. Vermiculite helps retain moisture, and perlite helps with drainage, so it depends on the needs of the plant. If you do not like to use peat moss, you can substitute coir, a coconut-based material, for it. One exception is that you do not want to use garden soil or soil from your yard. This is too heavy and dense and does not allow for good root production. The next propagation method I want to show you is leaf cutting. Before starting, have your clean and sterilized cutting and utensil and planter ready. For African violets, you want to choose a leaf that is neither too young nor too old. These leaves will be in the middle of the layers of leaves and are typically a little brighter than the old leaves and bigger than the newer leaves in the center. The leaves on African violets are easy to pop off with a slight twist. Once you have your leaf, you want to lay it down and cut the stem about an inch from the bottom of the leaf. Then make a 45-degree angle cut on the front side of the stem. Then you place the leaf in your moistened potting mix at a 45-degree angle. If the leaf does not want to stand up on its own, you can use a toothpick or other material to prop it up. For this method, you do want to create an atrium to retain moisture. I use a bag from the grocery, floral department, I had on hand and cut it down. Twist tie the top so you can open easily to water. Do not place in a sunny area. This can generate too much heat and burn the leaves. Bright indirect light is best. This is a slow process and may take a few months to see the new leaves. Other plants that you can propagate by leaf cuttings are begonia, jade, kalanchoe, peperomia, and snake plant. Next, I want to show you propagation by division. Maybe you have a plant that needs repotting. This peace lily wasn't looking too great. You can see how crowded it looks and not very healthy. I had two choices. I could transplant it into a bigger planter, or I could, with this type of plant, divide it and have more plants. I really like peace lilies and already have several myself, so I decided I would create more plants and offer them to friends. Here is what you will need: a spade or large spoon, scissors or clippers, clean planters, potting medium, root stimulator, and water. First, you want to gently work around the planter to loosen plant from pot. With ceramic pots, you need to work around it with a spade or spoon. Plastic pots you can squeeze if not too hard. Then remove plant and remove as much soil as you can from around the roots. Next, you want to gently separate clumps. I decided on 3 separate clumps of the plant. Have prepared planters with planting medium ready. Then take first clump and trim down roots. I like to have a mound of soil in the middle of the planter to lay roots around. Place plant in pot and cover with potting medium to top of the roots. Use root stimulator following directions on label, then water. Spray off any excess soil in between plants. Repeat for a number of clumps you have. I have 3 plants from 1. Other plants that can be propagated by division are African violet, asparagus fern, arrowhead vine, bromeliad, chrysanthemum, orchid, spider plant, and snake plant. The last couple of methods of propagation I want to talk about are layering methods. The first is referred to as air layering. Some plants can be more difficult to propagate, and this method is used for thick stem and woody stemmed plants, such as croton, Dieffenbachia, Dracaena, Norfolk island pine, rubber tree plants, and Schefflera. You will need long fibrous sphagnum moss, the type used for orchids, twine or garden tape, plastic food wrap, toothpick or matchsticks, depending on the cuts you make, sharp knife, and clippers. You can propagate a 1 to 2 foot long stem using air layering, using 2 types of cut in the bark by either stripping away a narrow band or making an angular cut. Both are doing basically the same thing by opening up the growing part of the plant to root. For the woody plant method, trim off leaves several inches in both directions above and below cut. To strip away bark, you can make 2 shallow cuts all the way around the stem, then remove the bark and cambium layer. The cambium is the actively growing layer under the bark. Then take the moistened sphagnum moss and wrap it around the area, using the plastic wrap to encase it. Tie the top and bottom, leaving the top available to open when needing to water. Be sure to check the moss stays moist. Use stakes to stabilize branch if bending over, and then keep moist. To use the angular cut method, you need to cut upward on stem and hold open with toothpick or other woody material. Then repeat the same steps in wrapping the cut with moss. When roots become visible, you can cut the stem off just below the wrapping, remove plastic and place in planter, along with the sphagnum moss. Trying to remove the moss may damage the roots. Water and cover with plastic to retain moisture and aid in plant establishment. Another layering method for plant propagation is called natural or simple layering. As you can see, it is probably the simplest method because it uses the plant's natural growth habit to create a new plant, especially with spider plants where the plantlets grow from long stolons. You can set these plantlets directly into another pot while still attached to the parent plant, so that it is still benefiting from the shared resources. You can also make small cuts in vine plants and anchor into potting medium, as you see being done with this arrowleaf vine. I hope that you have learned new ways to get the most out of your houseplants by propagating, and that by filling your home with them you will see the real benefits to your health and well-being.